Hola, mis estudiantes de español 2A. Let's talk about how to show possession in Spanish. You know that in English we use apostrophe S to show possession, but in Spanish we do not because they don't apostrophe S in Spanish. So let's learn what we do instead. One way to show possession is to take our definite article, which our choices are el, la, los, or las, which you know all mean the, plus our noun, then plus the preposition de, and then plus these objects of prepositions or names. So please write this down exactly as you see here, nicely and neatly in your notes, and then we will move on to an example sentence. So for example, if I want to say they are Max's shoes, in Spanish I need to have at least one conjugated verb to have a complete sentence, and to say they are, I would use a form of ser. Think of your forms of ser. Which form do you use for they? Are. And then instead of Max's shoes, I have to say the shoes of Max. And if you remember how to say shoes from Spanish 1, they are zapatos. So which one of these would you put in front of zapatos? Los zapatos de Max. And that is the answer that you would get. Let's look at another one. Number 2, it is Juan and Anna's book. It is Juan and Anna's book. I'm not going to show you the answer this time. I'm just going to ask that you give it a try. So this time, geez, I wish this window would stop showing up. Ask yourself what form of ser you want to say it is, and then instead of saying Juan and Anna's book, you're going to have to say the book of John and Anna. Give it a try. When you're ready, move along with me to the next screen where we're going to talk about possessive adjectives. That's another way to show possession. This should be review for you. You should have seen possessive adjectives before in Spanish 1, but whether you have or whether you haven't, you'll have it all in your notes after today. So, as you know, adjectives describe nouns, and they must match the noun they're describing in number, whether it's singular or plural, and gender, whether it's masculine or feminine. Now, we've also talked about the fact that usually adjectives go after nouns in Spanish, like blue book becomes book blue, but these are an exception. Possessive adjectives don't. So you will have your possessive adjective, then the noun. I'm even going to highlight this because this is so super important. You might want to do the same thing. You will always have your possessive adjective followed by its noun that it's describing. And one thing that I've noticed in my 8 years of teaching is that students have trouble remembering that possessive adjectives match the noun they're describing, not the person who owns it. This is super important. So please write that down. So if I want to say that it's, they are my books, I'm going to use a plural version of my, even though I'm only one person, to match books. But if I want to say that John and Anna are sharing a book, I would have to use the singular form of their to say their book, singular, even though they are more than one person, and because there's only one book. So let's look at this. I have this arranged this way specifically because it's just like our conjugation chart. So please don't change the format of this because I've got essentially the yo, the tu, the he, she, it box, the we, the you guys in Spain, and they or you guys everywhere else. So this is the way yours should look on the paper, is just like mine. So if I want to say that my book, my cat, whatever, I say mi or mis, depending on if the noun is plural or not. So my cat would be mi gato. My cats would be mis gatos. If I want to say your something, it's tu or tus, depending on if the noun is singular or plural. If I want to say his, her, its, or your, if I'm being formal like usted, I use su or sus plus the noun. If I want to say our, book or our cat or whatever the case may be. This time there are 4 different forms because there's also a masculine or feminine. So nuestro or nuestra, nuestros or nuestras. And your guys's in Spain would be vuestro, and there are 4 forms of this one as well. And then if I'm not in Spain and I want to say your guys's or y'all's book or their book, su or sus plus the noun. Please fill all this in. Press pause if you're not ready to move on. If you have questions, we will talk about it in class. And at this point, I would like you to write this down, examples of both possessive adjectives and pronouns, and then write down these example sentences. Please skip 2 lines between each one. 2 lines between each one. And you will see that the green sentences will have us practice the possessive adjectives that we just talked about, and the purple ones will be having us practice possessive pronouns, which we're about to take notes on. So please carefully write these down, skip 2 lines between each one, and then move on to take our notes over possessive pronouns. Okay, possessive pronouns. What's the difference between a possessive adjective and a possessive pronoun? Well, let's see. Pronouns replace nouns, usually to avoid repetition. So an adjective goes with a noun, a pronoun replaces a noun. Spanish possessive pronouns have 2 parts. That's something to remember. There's 2 words that make up a Spanish possessive pronoun. Don't forget that in Spanish, they must match the noun that they are describing, not the person, in number and gender. Therefore, there are 4 different forms: masculine singular or feminine singular, and masculine plural or feminine plural. So again, just like with our possessive adjectives, don't forget they match the noun, not the person that they're replacing. So let's look and see what these are. Again, I have them set up in a conjugation chart fashion. If I want to say it's mine, referring to a book, I say el mío. Notice the accent on the I. If I want to say it's yours, el tuyo. His, hers, its, or yours formal is el suyo. Ours is el nuestro. Y'all's in Spain is el vuestro. And theirs or y'all's everywhere else is el suyo. So notice they have 2 parts. They have el plus the second word, like I said up here, 2 parts. But there are 4 different versions of this chart because if I need to make them feminine, if I'm describing a table, mesa, instead of book, libro, I'm going to have to turn this into a feminine version of this. So you guys know that I would want to change el to la and change the o that these end in to a. So if I want to say it's mine, referring to a table or a folder, I would say la mía. I'd have to make it match. And if I want to make any of these plural, I have to change the L to los and add S to everything else. So the 4 different versions of el mío, for example, would be el mío, la mía, los míos, las mías. And I've got one more thing to say about possessive pronouns before we're done. I have students ask me, can the article ever be left out? We just saw on the previous screen that you need el, la, los, or las in front of your possessive pronouns. And I said that was important. Here's the deal. The definite article can be omitted or left out if you use it after ser. But if you're ever in doubt, use the article. It will always be acceptable to have the article, but most of the time you will be counted off if you don't include the el, la, los, or las. For example, ella no es mi tía, no es la mía. Since this is ser, I can drop the la here. I would like you to attempt to translate that sentence in the space provided, probably on your paper underneath it. And I've got one more. No tengo mis libros ¿Tienes los tuyos? In this example, I have tener in front of the possessive pronoun, so I may not take out the article. After this sentence, I would like you to attempt to translate that as well. Because I like you guys to always be fully informed as possible, I would like you to include this gray information in your notes, but I do have it in gray because it's not as important as the rest. We won't see this being used too much this trimester or this unit. So just something you should know about possessive pronouns. They can also be used without the article after the noun as an adjective. For example, ¿ves al hombre muy alto allí? Es el primo mío. In this instance, I'm asking, do you see the very tall guy over there? Es el primo mío, instead of saying es mi primo, I'm saying es el primo mío, but it means the same thing. He is my cousin. All right, you guys, this has been a lot of information about possession. We have talked about possessive pronouns. If you want to say that something is mine, yours, ours, you use a possessive pronoun and you take out the noun. If you want to keep the noun in the sentence, you use a possessive adjective to say my book, your book, his or her book, so on and so forth. And we also learned the equivalent of apostrophe S in Spanish. There is no apostrophe S in Spanish. We use de plus these options over here, either objects of prepositions or names. So your brain might be on information overload right now and you might be a little bit confused, but you now have everything down in your notebook. Bring your notes to class fully filled out and bring any questions you may have with you. We will go over all of this. We will answer your questions and we will practice. So good job. Thank you for taking your notes on possession. Adios.